In math today, we are continuing working with fractions. We're going to listen to our success criteria today about how we're going to practice this skill today. Our learning target is to compare two fractions with the same numerator. Today, we're going to be focusing on fractions that have the same numerator, but their denominators are different. Remember, when we compare fractions, we have to compare fractions that have the same size whole. When we compare today, we will use greater than, less than, or equal to, and we will justify our reasoning by explaining how we know. All right, so today we're going to keep practicing the skill of comparing fractions when the numerators are the same, but the denominators are different, which means our one whole is partitioned into different parts. Don't forget that when we compare fractions, the wholes are the same size so that it's fair. Slide number 3 is an example of what we're going to do today. I'm going to play the example. Students are focusing their attention, watching to see how I compare, and most importantly, how do I justify my thinking and explain my answer. Let's take a look at this example together. In this example, we will compare 1/4 and 1/8 using a circle model. I have already partitioned these models into equal areas or equal parts. On the left, I will represent the first fraction given. I see that there are 4 equal parts, so I will label each part with the unit fraction. The unit fraction always has a numerator of 1. Perfect. On the right model, I will partition and I will label with the unit fraction of the given fraction on the right. I see I'm partitioning into 8, so each fraction piece, each part will be labeled with the unit fraction. So the first job we want to do is look at the denominators. So 4 and 8. Then we show by partitioning into 4 equal parts and 8 equal parts. Then I looked at the unit fraction. I know that each part is 1 out of the parts, so I labeled each section or part with the unit fraction. 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. And then on the right model, I used the unit fraction 1/8 to label each part. Today, I'm going to be checking that you're labeling each part with the unit fraction because this helps us when we compare. After I label each part with the unit fraction, I can now shade my models to represent the given fraction. On the left, I'm comparing 1/4. I'm representing 1/4. So I will shade in one piece of the 4 pieces, or one part of the 4 parts. I have now represented 1/4 on the left. My next fraction that I'm comparing is 1/8. So on the right model, I will shade in one part to represent 1/8. Perfect. So now we need to compare these two fractions. First of all, I notice that both of them are unit fractions because both have a numerator of 1, which makes them a unit fraction. When we compare fractions that have the same numerator, we really need to pay attention to the denominators. I notice this denominator is 4 and this denominator is 8. So you might be thinking, well, 8 is greater than 4, so 1/8 is greater than 1/4. Lots of kids think this, but let's look at our model. I notice that 1/4 is a much bigger piece or part than 1/8. Think back to our example of sharing cookies. If only 4 kids are going to share this cookie, you will get a much bigger piece of the cookie than if you have to share with 8 kids and you only get 1/8 of the cookie. When our numerators are the same, we have to look at our denominators and think about the unit fraction. 1/4 is a greater piece with a unit fraction. So when we compare these two models and these two fractions, we know that 1/4 is greater than 1/8. We can choose our symbol. And now we can fill in the blank to explain how we know. Our sentence stem says 1/4 is blank, 1/8 because blank. Okay, I know that I just completed the problem and I know that 1/4 is greater than 1/8. I'm going to use my text box. I'm going to fill in using my math vocabulary. 1/4 is greater than 1/8 because, well, how do I know? Because I see that 1/4 is a bigger part of the whole than 1/8. So let's put that in our answer. 1/4 is a greater part than 1/8. Make sure today when you are recording your why, when you say your because, you are thinking about math vocabulary in your answer. Okay, we have just seen one example together. Now we're going to go to slide number 6 and work together on partitioning to compare two fractions. Please join me on slide number 6. Students should be focusing their attention during a lesson, ready to work with the teacher. Compare 2/4 and 2/6. I am comparing 2/4 and 2/6. The first thing I want to do is decide which model is going to represent which fraction. On the top, I'm going to show 2/4. So I'm going to label it 2/4. On the bottom, I'm going to show 2/6. So I'm going to label it. Right now, you should be working with me. Whatever I write on page 6, you should be writing on your own slide number 6. Now I need to look at my denominators that will tell me how to partition. My first denominator is 4. I am going to partition my model into fourths. Just the top model is what I'm going to partition into fourths. I start by partitioning into 1/2. Then I partition into 4 equal parts. Right now, you should be modeling with me, partitioning your top model into 4 equal areas or 4 equal parts. Notice that we are just looking at the top model right now. After we partition into 4 equal parts, we want to label the unit fraction. My denominator is 4. My numerator for every unit fraction is 1. So 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4. Right now, you should be labeling your unit fraction on our model for fourths. Go ahead and do that now. Okay, after we modeled our unit fractions and labeled them, we can shade in to represent. So we are comparing 2/4. So in my comparison, I can record 2 1/4 down below to get ready for my comparison. And now I can shade in my parts to add up to 2 1/4. 1/4 plus another 4th. 2 1/4 or 2/4. We have now represented on our model. Check that you have shaded correctly and recorded 2/4 to be ready for our comparison symbol. Great job. Let's go on to modeling 2/6 on our bottom model. Remember, now we're going to show 2/6 down below. And the reason we show it right next to it is so that we can easily see the model and compare. My denominator is 6, so I need 6 equal areas or 6 equal parts. I'm going to start by partitioning it into 3 equal parts. Then I'm going to take each third and cut it in half, cut it into 2 parts. Now we have 6 equal areas or 6 equal parts. After you partition, you can label using the unit fraction. If my denominator is 6, I know that each one will be 1/6. Join me in labeling your equal parts with the unit fraction. I can also record my fraction ready for my comparison. Excuse me, down below, I can record 2/6 to be ready. Check that your model matches mine. Equal partitioning, unit fractions, and that you've recorded your given fraction below. Great work with your partitioning and your labeling of the unit fraction. Now we can represent 2 1/6. So we can get our highlight tool and we can shade in 1/6 and a second 1/6, which is the same thing as 2 1/6. Now we can look at our model to determine a comparison. 2 1/4 has more area shaded than 2 1/6. So our comparison symbol needs to show that 2/4 is greater than 2/6. Remember, the smaller the denominator, the greater the piece. When there is only 4 kids sharing, you get a bigger part than if there are 6 kids sharing. After you write your comparison, we need to justify our thinking. Today you have a fill in the blank on every page. Here is where we can justify and explain our thinking using math vocabulary. Let's do it together. 2/4 is blank, 2/6 because blank. We just determined that 2/4 is greater than 2/6. So the first thing we can write is greater than. 2/4 is greater than 2/6. You may type in your math vocabulary greater than into the blank. After we type in some math vocabulary, we have to explain how we know. We need to explain the why. 2/4 is greater than 2/6 because, let's look at our model. I see that 1/4 is greater than 1/6. So when we count 2 of these parts, it's bigger than 2 of these parts. Our reason can be that the unit fraction 1/4 is a bigger part than 1/6. Let's type that together. 2/4 is greater than 2/6 because 1/4 is a bigger part than 1/6. The unit fraction can help us determine which fraction will be more area shaded. If 1/4 is bigger than 1/6, 2 1/4 is going to be bigger than 2 1/6. After you type your answer, you can fit it into the box how you like it to fit. Check that your model is just like mine. Great job doing a model with me, boys and girls. I really appreciate your good focus. Here's what we're going to do until we end our Zoom. On slide number 4, there is a video example. I want you to watch and listen to slide number 4. When you're done, I want you to try slide number 7. 2 steps to try on your own. Watch video number 4, then Try number 7. I want you to do that, and then we'll check in before we end Zoom and talk about what your independent work is. No, please stay on Zoom. We're not done yet. I want you to watch slide 4. Try example 7. Go ahead and do that next. On slide number 7, you should have 1 partitioned into fourths, and each part should be labeled with the unit fraction. I'm seeing some kiddos who are taking the given fraction and labeling each part like this. That doesn't make sense because each part is the unit. Each part is 1 out of 4. On the right, you should have 3 equal parts, and each part should be labeled 1/3. Right now, you're checking yourself. Did you do this correctly? Then you should have shaded to represent. So on the left, 1/4, 2/4, and 3/4, or 3 1/4. On the right, you should have shaded 1/3, 2 1/3, 3 1/3. Oh my goodness, we know that that's the same thing as 1 whole, which is why all of it is shaded in. Now we can use our comparison symbol. I noticed that 3 1/3 is greater than 3/4. So my symbol goes like this, and I read it as 3/4 is less than 3 1/3. Then you will fill in your math vocabulary to explain your thinking. Great job with your model. Let's talk about your independent task. Slide number 9 begins your independent work. You have 6 examples where you are partitioning, shading, comparing, and filling in the blanks. We have not watched an example together of a number line, but you do have one. Number 5, Day is correct. Number 5 has an example of a number line that you can watch during your work time to help you remember how to partition and represent a fraction on a number line. You can do that during your work time today. Start on slide number 9, show your knowledge, and when you get to slide number 16, I want you to reflect on your ability to compare 2 fractions and justify your conclusion. You will explain how you feel using math vocabulary words.